Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Wherever you are, welcome to Dumb SEO Questions, episode 248. Each week we meet here to answer the questions asked on the SEO Questions community on Google+, on the Dumb SEO Questions group on Facebook, and you can also ask a question using the hashtag on Twitter, Dumb SEO QS. With us tonight, we have Masataki Wasa. Masataki is webmaster of wasaweb.net, and he's also a Google top contributor on the AdSense community. Masataki is located in Wimbledon in the UK. Micah Fisher-Kirshner is a speaker on the SEO public circuit. He's head of SEO for Zendesk.com, and he's located on the west coast of the USA. And we're not too sure where Tim Capper is located, but somewhere north of England, somewhere north of London, I should say. Tim is proprietor of onlineownership.com. He is a conversion rate optimization specialist, proud to call himself an SEO. He's also a Google top contributor on the Google My Business community. All right, our first question tonight, how to rank a website in video search. Just bear with me, I'll click a button to try and catch up, but no, that's all of it. So Sujit Das has asked us how to rank a website in video search. He put a graphic on the Dumb SEO Questions group on Facebook, and it shows, I can't remember the site, but it's ranking amongst a whole list of YouTube clips.
Yeah, it's fairly rare for a non-YouTube site these days to actually rank. More or less, you gotta have an extreme situation for that, and a bit of luck, I would say personally, in terms of having a non-YouTube site show up. I think, I forget who offhand has been doing studies on that, but it's been study after multiple studies I've seen is this basically it's 90+%, almost all YouTube, and very few other non-YouTube sites show up. So when you're looking for something and determining how to rank, pretty much your first thing is make sure you're using YouTube. If you're really going to try to strive for something that's non-YouTube, I mean, it's going to take a lot of effort for the most part, and by that can be links, embeds, proper structure for wherever you have it on the page, making sure that obviously it fits the user intent for the query, properly naming the image that people can read, the content that surrounds the image, mostly nearby, general kind of the themes that go standard with SEO are for the most part going to be there. But yeah, that's kind of the main ones that I'm aware of. I'm not usually diving too deep onto the video side, but really pretty much the biggest thing it's got to be through YouTube.
Yeah. And I wonder if this has got something to do with it. According to SEMRush, YouTube's backlink profile comprises 5.6 billion links. It's not a bad record, eh?
Yeah, but it's not like I don't think it's necessarily due to the backlink profile, because I mean, you can get a lot of random YouTube videos that show up, but next, I mean, there's other big sites too that get a lot of links. I never see them. Dailymotion, Vimeo, Wistia stuff, like just they don't rank, and they used to quite a bit before. And I don't think it's due to a backlink setup.
Okay. Well, Sujit Das, I'm sorry we're not much help to you tonight, but thank you, Micah, for a great answer. Anyway, let's tweet that and we'll move on. This one from Neil Cheeseman. It's titled Displaying Links with an H2. He said, any thoughts on this? On a WordPress post about content, about a news item, a sidebar widget, which is brackets reviews of other not directly related items, bracket, displays links with an H2. If these are not directly related to content A, would you suggest removing the widget or try to look for content that is directly related?
Well, normally there's content widgets on WordPress. So you get the bulk standard one in WordPress, which is, I think, the latest topics, and you can either select 5 or 10 or whatever to display. And you can, there are other different ones where you can use different plugins, which basically crawl the site in itself, the blogs, and then sort of, you know, in a mini algorithmic way, return related, you know, 5 or 10, whichever you pick. It's normally 5 of the most related to that, based upon and it uses, you know, some of them will use Yoast and keywords and blah blah blah, and so, and then they will give you the you know, and they're pretty spot on in terms of what are the most related ones. You know, it's good for, you know, if you've got a readership out there, and you know, you land if that, you know, you've just written something, and you know people are reading about it, but they want a bit more context to it because they may have only come into the kind of evolving story halfway through. It's good for them to see related ones to it, so then they can actually view additional ones through. So it's good. It's a good way. I think it's beneficial. I think it's beneficial, and it's beneficial to the user. They tend to stay on the site longer, and depending on what the site does, obviously. But it's also good for you know, just additional interlinking throughout the site, especially in you know, in relative terms on what it's related to. I wouldn't bother about the H2 because, you know, too many people tend to forget that H1s, H2s, H3s, H4s is actually, you know, in the CSS stylized. So if you wanted to, you could remove the H2 if you really wanted to, and then just style it up by pixel, you know, by height or packs or whatever, depending on what the site is saying about it. You could just style it in that size-wise, font size, rather than using an H2 or 3. So yeah, that's my kind of.
Thank you, Tim. Anybody else? Well, there it is, Neil Cheeseman. Okay, our next SEO question from Nick Thorley. Interesting question. Canonical. It's titled "Canonical Tag on a News Story," and Neil says, or asks, can the canonical tag be used to indicate that a legitimate copy of a news story has been put on a second website, but has a canonical tag pointing to the original source?
he's saying, okay, is he saying that on the original source, he wants something that points to where the copy is, that references back to his own site? I'm not quite sure I follow. Like, it is perfectly fine to have a canonical tag on the news copy that references the original, but there is no tag that says over here are all the syndicated copies. That, as far as I'm aware, that's not, there's no tag for that. You can link to them. I don't see why. Beyond highlighting that it got, say, picked up in the Times or something. But yeah, no, there's no tag to indicate that I'm aware of.
Yep. Anybody else? That sums it up. Let's have a look at this one from Jesus Sanchez Arnelda. It's titled "Linking Back to a Random Website." He said, Google doesn't like the exchange of links. For example, link to me and I will link to you. So if a random website links to me and I like their material, can I link them back?
So this comes down to the webmaster guidelines have been about excessive reciprocal linking or link exchanges, and a single link, a couple links is not a big deal as long as it's not your main focus and it's not massively being done, because yeah, Google recognizes that there are natural ways where it makes sense, through friends, through other situations where you're highlighting each other. So really the way to look at it is, you know, is things done at scale. Things where that's your only single source of backlink tactics, then yeah, that could be a problem. But for a random thing, not an issue.
Yeah, totally agree. Anybody else want to add to that? All right, so let me tweet that. This one from Sam Dean, he said, what's the big deal with maps in an SEO context, please?
Where's Tim gone? Because it is.
It's right. That's why I was remaining silent. It is right up Tim's alley, but I think he must have just taken a call, I think.
What's up?
We want to know what the big deal is with maps in an SEO context.
Okay, so essentially it all boils down to if you're a location-based business. So something that's online, like, I don't know, ASOS, or, you know, who doesn't actually have a bricks and mortar shop, and they just and they just search, you know, they're just online in that sense, no physical presence, then they wouldn't bother about it in terms of local SEO. But local SEO is specifically based around a bricks and mortar or a physical location or a physical service in a location. So essentially, you know, if you perform a local search and you've seen it, you type in, I don't know, restaurant in whatever city. In fact, you don't even need to type in the city anymore, because Google tends to pick up on your If you're on a mobile, it picks up your geolocation from cell towers. And if you're on desktop, it picks up your IP and will return relevant businesses in that area. And you get the very first thing called a local pack right above the fold, and you have 3. It used to be 7, now it's 3 listings, and of course you can click through for more. But essentially, that's a gold mine. I mean, most local businesses, 60, and I'll even go as high as 80% of their direct traffic comes essentially from maps or local search. So it's a massive, massive, massive deal. If you're not appearing in the maps, if you're not within the top 3 in the local pack, or at least within the top 4 in the local finder, and you're not managing it, then you literally throwing away between 60 and 80% of your potential traffic.
Yeah. And that's it, Tim?
Well,
there's no more to come?
As long as a piece of string, mate. Do we want to be here for another 5 hours?
All right. Let's wrap this one up, and we'll move on to the next. I think I tweeted it. Let's see. No, I didn't. All right. This one from Sky Lands. He said, my crawl budget. He said, I have a few landing pages that I use for PPC, and they have the robots no index tag on the web page. However, I notice that Google crawls these pages quite a bit, and it seems like it's eating my crawl budget, as it's not paying as much attention to other pages on my website. Why is Google crawling these so much? And do you think they take into consideration any signals such as traffic, dwell time, and apply to an overall website quality score? Thanks so much in advance.
So no index just prevents it from being indexed. Google can still crawl the page. So that's first and foremost. If you don't want the page to be crawled by, I'm presuming the research you're doing is showing that it's the regular Google bot and not Google's ad bot, then you need to put in a robots.txt inside of the robots.txt file the landing pages you use for PPC. That said, you need to make sure. Yeah, no, I think that's pretty much it, actually. Just put them into the PC side and have them stop crawling them.
Okay. Any other comments on this one? Yeah, I'm reluctant to move, and I don't feel I own that. Anyway, let's tweak this and move along to the next. Tina Willis wants to know about lazy load or not. Tina said, hello, I have what I think is a very technical question. One of my friends emailed someone else and expressed it this way. He wouldn't mind my sharing. We are trying to find an answer. You recommended that the site owners publish videos to their sites using Wistia or Vimeo at least 90 days or so prior to sharing the video on YouTube, so that our sites will receive credit for the video. I shared on G+, and Tina Willis has raised an interesting issue. That is far over my head, and neither of us can find an answer. We are both on shared hosting with a content distribution network, A2 and SiteGround, but still it's shared hosting. Due to site speed concerns, we're considering using lazy loading to load our Wistia videos. Benchmark tests indicate that a site with one Wistia videos will load in 4 seconds without lazy loading, where it requires only 2 seconds to fully load it when lazy loading is turned on. But articles indicate that Googlebot does not crawl a lazy loaded video and could not do so if they wanted to. Assuming this information is correct, would you rather have a site that loaded in 4 seconds and received credit for the content of the video, or would you rather use lazy load and have the improved load times? I've not seen anyone address this question. Do you have an opinion? Thanks very much for any insight.
So I'm not the one that recommended having the videos published first on Wistia or Vimeo, because for me, for the most part, those videos are not going to show up in search. So for me, I would just throw them over to YouTube and be done with it. That said, I mean, yeah, if it's for now, basically, if it's being lazy loaded, for the most part, yeah, Google will not likely be paying attention to that. Yeah, I don't know why. Like, it shouldn't be taking 4 seconds for the site, for the CDN or whatever they're loading the video. The main thing, though, really in the end, is not that it takes 4 seconds, but rather is it affecting the true user experience. You know, if the video is further down the page and it's loading while a user is still scrolling and reading through the page, that's not necessarily an issue, because as long as the user can still interact and do things, and it's not the main focus of the page. So for that, then it can be okay. It's like having, it's essentially the kind of, the perceptual load of the page is what matters more than the actual kind of full total page load. Because as long as the interaction on the page is more the important. Let me see. I mean, I think part of it also comes down to what is the importance of the video having credit into the page. Does the video actually show up in the search results? Is there a lot of content on the page? For me, the issue of then having a 4-second video, if it's not a big purpose, then it's not something that I would care much about. I would lazy load it in if you're having issues where it's taking 4 seconds for the video to actually load. So for me, again, it will depend by query. I would generally just have it through YouTube anyway. I think without knowing kind of the specifics on that, it makes it a little bit difficult to know for sure.
I think for the benefit of others who may be watching this at a later time, we should explain what lazy load is. it's the images that are below the fold. It uses JavaScript, a thing called jQuery, to not load the videos, and not call an image, and until the user scrolls down below the fold to actually see the image, and then it brings it up, and that's why Googlebot can't find it, because Google still it follows some JavaScript, doesn't it, Micah? But not all. And so that an image or a video which is lazy loaded, it's not that Google says we're not going to do this. It's just that Googlebot can't see it because it's lazy loaded. So the only thing I'd say though is that a video is when a robot crawls it, it's only a thumbnail. It's not the whole video. It's not like Googlebot would be crawling a video. They have a special bot for that, don't they?
So the last part kind of cut out there.
Googlebot, in the normal course of events, lazy load or not, Googlebot doesn't crawl a video.
Well, yeah, I mean, Googlebot's not crawling the video, but it can, that I'm aware of. It's through and through, but I mean, it's able to recognize that there's a video there, and the content that can surround it and recognize kind of the data that pulls in. But I don't have I've not like gone through and say, well, Google's looking at X, Y, and Z when it comes to video. Like I mentioned earlier, it's not my main focus to know in detail about something like that. I just know kind of some of the higher level stuff when it comes to the video side of SEO, not the heavy detailed technical end.
Yeah. All right. Well, look, Tina Willis, I hope that's what you're looking for, and we look forward to the next time you contact us. Manika Sahar asks a question. It's titled, "Keywords are ranked with old meta tags and some are with new." Manika said, "Hello everyone, I hope you're doing well. I have a question. I'm working on a website. Actually, I'm doing the remarketing. I have changed all meta tags and created a new XML sitemap and resubmitted it. Now all URLs are submitted and indexed. Now when checking keywords in Google, some keywords are ranked with old meta tags and some are with new. What have I done wrong and how can I fix it?"
Well, that just sounds like Googlebot has found some pages and hasn't gone back and revisited the other pages yet and found the new titles. So essentially, you've got a sitemap. That's job done. Googlebot will find them. If you want to wait on what you perceive to be obviously a top level, more important kind of pages, in your search console, you can actually just do a fetch and render on those URLs, and then resubmit to Google to crawl, which they should do fairly quickly. Bear in mind, you can only do 10. I think it's, I don't know if it's a week or a month. You can only do 10. So be pretty selective of that. But the rest, you know, Googlebot will find your you know, your sitemap. The thing is to remember, as your pages get more and more popular, you know, Googlebot will be visiting them more often. But with newer sites or sites which aren't that popular, they tend to visit some of these pages very infrequently. So, you know, like I said, you can ask Googlebot to visit them with fetch and render, but be selective of that. And then obviously in your XML sitemap that's in there, Googlebot will work his way through over time and update it.
Thank you, Tim. Does anybody have anything to add to that? No, I'm going to move on to the next. This one from Danny Ladd on learning e-commerce SEO. Danny Ladd said, "Hello guys, I need honest feedback." That's the only kind we have here, Tim, isn't it? I'm thinking to start work on an AliExpress drop shipping site for learning e-commerce SEO, not to earn money. I need some suggestions for niche selection. Looking forward to your positive response. Thanks.
Okay, so I don't know what an AliExpress drop shipping is. Let me.
Well, I can help. AliExpress is a subset of Alibaba.com. It's where on Alibaba it has the business to business and business to consumer items, whereas AliExpress is all consumer items. So it's in smaller numbers and packaging for, you know, the small consumer, rather than a business that might be ordering 144 of this and 144 of that. Apparently, I didn't know this, but AliExpress will drop ship, and drop shipping is where Danny Ladd will sell this item on his website, collect the money, and then using that money he will then buy the product from AliExpress, pay for it with the money he was paid, and have it shipped directly to the client. He doesn't actually touch the goods, but does pick up the profit.
Okay, so in that regard, so he's going to create a site, a little e-commerce site to sell these products on from AliExpress. Okay, so right, I mean, you've got a way to go. There's no you know, there's no quick learning module for e-commerce. From what Jim has explained, look, you're going to have to go out and figure, you know, and learn about basic SEO anyway. So there's loads. Google's got just search Google SEO guide. You can start with Moz's SEO guide. From what's been explained by Jim here, the one overriding massive thing, that piece of advice that I will give you is, if you're obviously selling the product that they've already got listed somewhere. So couple of things. Image, I I would certainly, now this is going to be a bit difficult for you, but I would certainly make that image better, more attractive, because of course, you know, that image is just going to be bulk standard stock across the world on hundreds of different places that are selling the same thing. One way to stand out is by creating a better image. So, you know, if you don't actually have the product and you can't take a photo, I don't really know how you'll do that. But that's one of the things that I would personally concentrate on. And your product description, you need to differentiate yourself from all the other product descriptions out there, which are 90% just going to copy and paste that content into that site. If you want to stand up out and above the rest, you need to provide unique content on your site, product description. You can even go as far as providing, you know, a better user journey, more questions and answers about the product, video about the product. But same again, we go back to the problem. If you don't actually have the product, you can't actually create a video about the product. So those are my two massive. So you need to go out and get the fundamentals down on SEO. But my two overriding biggest things that's going to serve you in the long time is your own unique image and your own unique product description, and go over and above what the others are providing.
Thank you, Tim. Okay, let's move on to the next. Jonathan Minard asked a question titled Big Sitemaps Linking 3 Sites. Jonathan said, hello folks, how should I structure a sitemaps if my client has a multi-WordPress, 3 WordPress site? Should I create 3 different sitemaps and list them independently? Should I create one big sitemap linking all 3 sites? Thank you, guys.
So has he got one WordPress site, but let's say he's got 3 blogs on there? I mean, or are these 3 separate domains? Okay, so
I honestly don't know.
Well, you can't combine different domains. So I'm assuming it has to be one big site with, I don't know, he's got some kind of sections, different thing. Anyway, no, those you should keep separate. There is a limit. I mean, it's a massive limit, but there's a limit on a sitemap quantity. What is it? Is it is it 10,000?
10,000, Tim.
Yeah, so it is big, but there is a limit. So, I mean, I don't know how big these sites are. When you say a massive, I mean, how big is it going to grow? And then ultimately it won't be able to add more to it. Well, it will add more to it, but you see what I mean? So I would certainly keep them 3 separate. It also helps, you know, to define it. But, you know, you can add loads of sitemaps into your search console. So yeah, I would certainly keep them separate. One, because there's a limit on one big one. Although it's a very generous limit, there's a limit. So keep them separate. Googlebot will you know, will appreciate that. And because it also makes structural sense to them. You know, if you start mishing them together, it's not going to make structural sense. Well, I mean, they only need to find the URL, but in terms of, you know, just understanding the structure, it just makes more structural sense to keep them separate. Yeah.
Excellent, Tim. Okay, let's go to the next. This one from Walter Lewis on what to do after carrying out a 301 on an old site. Walter said, hi, looking for a bit of advice on a few points. Building a new site for a client on a new domain. once finished, is going to 301 the old site's individual relevant pages to the new site. The old site is using Blogger with a custom domain setting. So would you redirect within Blogger or the htaccess file? Also, am I right in saying the link build-out should still use the old domain URL, as the new domain will be sandboxed for a few months? If that's the way to go, am I also right in saying that I can be a little bit more aggressive with the on-page SEO on the old site, as it's Google's baby? Any input would be great. I guess he's referring to Blogspot being part of Google.
Yeah, that's not going to make any difference, is it? You know, Google is not going to favor you just because you're using Blogger. I'm slightly confused because he's asking about redirecting pages, but the new site is not going to be ready for public consumption for a while. So you wouldn't have the 301 until then, right? Until you have the new site up and running. And then you redirect from the old site to the new site. So I'm a tiny bit confused about that.
Mm-hmm.
And if the blog's on a custom domain, then it should be possible to redirect using the htaccess file because you're in control of the domain.
Hmm. I'm just looking at the in the commentary from the Dumb SEO Questions group on Facebook. The last one, Walter says, if they build their site on Blogger, Google will be a lot least likely to penalise, which would mean I could go top heavy on page. I don't agree with that. I'm sure you guys don't either.
No, Googlebot will treat it exactly the same.
Yep. Yep. Can you do canonical links on Blogspot? On Blogger, I should say.
Ooh, it might be possible now. No, actually, because I think the Blogger. Oh no! Wait a minute. Sorry. It's a custom domain, so it should be fine. If it's blogspot.tld, then it is all canonicalized to blogspot.com, I think. But if you're using custom domain, then that shouldn't apply. So I think you would be able to institute canonical link on a page-by-page basis, but then you'd have to do it through if conditioning, if I'm not wrong.
Okay. All right. Let's call that an answer for Walter, I should say, and move to the next. This one from Vishal Gupta on schema markup for an uncategorized web page. If a web page doesn't fall into any particular category, is marking it up with web page schema markup a good practice?
But your web page markup is normally just I don't see the harm in it. and I don't ever see it being penalized, because tons of CMSs, like for example WordPress, automatically include now, if you've updated, obviously, automatically include web page structured data. And if anybody's and also with Yoast. So given the fact that that's already running on billion sites, and there's been no reports of spammy structured data markup penalties on web page, I'm pretty sure that it's fine. I can't say for definite. And if you're having to individually set it up, like it sounds like you are in that sense, it's entirely up to you. I really don't think it's going to be a problem, personally.
Yeah, I don't think it will be any problem. But you know, if you're going to mark it up properly, as it were, then you just put item, you put item type page and then do nothing with it, then it doesn't do anything. So I think it makes sense to put web page. But if you're going to do that, then make sure that it has a name and the image and so on and so forth, so that it is meaningful, rather than just it has item type page somewhere and that's it, and you do nothing with it. Then it's not going to achieve anything.
Thank you, Mr. Taki. All right, so let's move on to the next. This one from one that I included. About 6 weeks ago, SEMRush published a ranking factors study, and it was met with some skepticism by some. So that this week that they released their methodology. But the thing that I took away from it was the I've lost my train of thought. One thing I can say, one thing I can remember is that that they went away with forming opinions on correlation, and even so they didn't use correlation. They got a lot of comments from people saying that correlation is not equal to causation. That's just a habit of people. Whenever they see that Google's algorithm being examined, they just spout this out like Pavlov's dog. The thing that I took away from it was that they didn't do this for a cheap headline. It was a serious study and professionally carried out. That was the thing that I liked most about it. Any other comments? I should point out too that SEMRush gives to many of our panelists the Guru subscription, which is a contribution around about $1,200 a year or something like that. Not over sure. Okay. Let's move to the next. And it's thank you for watching. Well, we still have eyeballs looking at us. We thank you for that. Your interest in what we do makes what we do worthwhile. We'll be back at the same time next week to do this all again. But for now, it's